Imagine you feel unwell and find that your blood pressure is so high that it's life-threatening. You go to the hospital, the place that is supposed to make you healthier, and you're sent home twice. That may be far-fetched to imagine that kind of circumstance happening to you, but that's what happened to Alicia. Not because the danger wasn't real, but because of something you can't see. A mental shortcut that we use daily. A hidden assumption, or other words, an implicit cognitive bias. And it almost killed her. Alicia was a woman living with obesity. Her blood pressure reached 205/134, far beyond the normal range of what we normally consider normal, which is 120/80. But her doctor assumed this was normal for someone like her. No further tests and no urgent treatment. Unfortunately for Alicia, her blood pressure continued to rise to a level that can lead to stroke, organ damage, and even death. Only after pushing for a second opinion from another doctor did she get proper treatment. This is the invisible danger of cognitive bias, and it can affect any one of us. It's this reason that everyone, especially those that are in charge of others' health, must fight against these biases. To fight against these biases, we have to understand what exactly they are. In short, a cognitive bias is a mental shortcut our brains take, often unconsciously, that can distort our judgment. They're not always malicious, but almost always have some kind of unforeseen or negative impact on others. To add, implicit cognitive biases are invisible to the person who holds them, which makes them harder to address. Implicit cognitive biases also are some of the most pervasive given the breadth of research delving into these biases and how difficult they are to really recognize and change. In Alicia's case, her doctor implicitly believed that people with obesity naturally have high blood pressure, even when it is dangerously high. That assumption replaced critical medical reasoning. Unfortunately, that's just not rare. Around 40% of patients with obesity say they've experienced weight stigma in a medical setting. In fact, the higher their BMI, the more likely they would feel judged. Some are lectured about weight during visits that are completely unrelated to their weight. Others get less eye contact, or less empathy, or fewer questions. Over time, it's apparent to see how this can push people to avoid the doctor altogether, which will, of course, worsen their health outcomes. To challenge the prevailing belief that weight is merely a matter of willpower, an expanding body of research demonstrates otherwise. Genetics, hormones like leptin that control hunger, brain chemistry, sleep patterns, and social environments, they are not all equally within our control. Managing weight isn't just trying harder, it's biologically and psychosociologically complex. It's personal, and it has to be managed by those that understand the minutiae of weight management and implicit biases together. Weight bias is just one example, though. In healthcare, bias can target people of different races, ethnicities, genders, sexual orientations, or even abilities. Studies show racial minorities often get less empathetic care, more assumptions, and even misdiagnoses. Infant mortality is twice as high for minority mothers. Pain treatment is less likely to be adequate. And shockingly, some medical students still believe falsehoods like Black people's skin is thicker. We have to acknowledge how cognitive biases can affect these outcomes. LGBTQ+ patients face their own hurdles. According to some studies, many future doctors still hold explicit and implicit bias against gay and lesbian patients. One way gender bias shows up is when research is based mostly on a majority group of people, leaving others that aren't the majority, that weren't researched, underserved in that aspect. People with disabilities often face a lack of accommodations and a lack of awareness, and the very institutions meant to educate and care for them. So how do we fix these problems? Well, that can be a very complex answer. We can always, firstly, be aware. We can't change what we can't see. That means asking ourselves, where do my biases lie? What am I not aware of? Why did I act that way when they did that? There needs to be a lot of honest dialogue and reflection with yourself if you want to fight against these cognitive biases. Secondly, talking to new people, meeting people outside your circles, learning about different communities, visiting cultural events, taking classes in psychology, sociology, or anthropology. Bias grows where we can't see it. And exposure is a magnifying glass that can point out what we're not noticing. Thirdly, speaking up, respectively, constructively, but firmly. Call out bias when you see it. Advocate for yourself, like Leisha did. Share this message so others can do the same. Cognitive biases live in all of us. While they're hard to change, they are not static. With patience, compassion, and the courage to question our own assumptions, we can build a society or healthcare system that serves each person fully and fairly. Being a pre-medical student, I envision a world where people aren't limited to healthcare by their identity. And I also believe that many people feel the same way. Let's work together, slowly, and bit by bit, to make healthcare more ethical in this light. While it is hard, I believe we can really make a difference practicing these strategies. Thank you for taking the time to listen.